everybody, and welcome to another episode of Get a Life. I'm your host, Marlene Meir. Today, I have a question for you. What do you think is the most important element of a happy life? I'll wait a few minutes. Okay, I'll give you a hint. What do most people take for granted until they don't have it or something goes wrong? If you guessed your health, you are absolutely correct, and your car is parked out front. No, seriously. How intentional are you about your health? And we're going to talk about specifically self-care and health in a very personal way. We live in a culture right now that is so far away from all things self-responsible, self-maintained, self-controlled. There's a pill for everything, there's a solution for everything, or so they say, without any question or comment about what is possibly at root cause. So the interesting thing about the human body is it's a fascinating organism, but it is a completely self-controlled, self-regulating mechanism that is interdependent, meaning that all of the glands and the muscles and the organs and the systems, like the nervous system, the digestive system, the circulatory system, they all depend on one another to function properly. A lot of Western medicine takes things apart. My arm is separate from my leg. My heart is a different thing than my stomach, and vice versa. Only when we can look at the entire ecosystem of the human body do we and can we really understand health. So today, I would like to ask you the question again: how intentionally aware are you about your health? And what do you do on a daily basis that either moves you toward a greater state of health or moves you farther away from a greater state of health? And you'll see a trend here. Every show, I talk about moving towards something or moving away from. Everything we do, we're either moving towards something or away from. So today, we're going to really look at health. Now, here's another big question for you. What do you think determines your health? A lot of people will say, well, my biology, my genetics, my family, my medical treatments, my diagnoses, my this, my that. I'll give you a hint. We're going to take a little look at our slide over here. Our health is mostly determined by this area in the red. And that, my friends, is lifestyle. How you live your life and how you take care of yourself is directly related to how your health turns out. Now look at this. This is an interesting thing. So if lifestyle makes up half of the determination of one's health, the second one, interestingly enough, is environment. And what do we mean by environment? Well, there's a couple of environments. There's the environment in general, the physical environment, but there's also the environment of the body itself. We'll speak a little bit about environmental factors in a little bit. The next category that is the biggest is the green situation here, which is your genetics. But that's only 16% determination of the totality of your health. And interestingly enough, we're also seeing this huge growth in genetic testing, which in some cases is a good thing. Some cases could be, in my humble opinion, playing with fire, because if genetics only make up 16% of what determines your health, isn't it a little bit scary to think that you're putting all of your maybe even horrible treatment or radical surgeries or radical use of pharmaceuticals to correct something that isn't even happening yet? I think it's a slippery slope, but a lot of people would argue with me. But I would ask you to think about that. How comfortable are you? And do we really have the opportunity to impact these other areas? And then the most interesting thing, because this is what our society wants us to believe really is a determination of our health, which couldn't be farther from the truth, is our medical treatment. And that's just this tiny little orange sliver right here. So medical treatment goes back to diagnosing something, and then all of the ensuing treatment of those particular symptoms. The overuse of pharmaceuticals, the overuse of pain relievers, which is really part of why all of a sudden we're seeing an escalation in opioid addiction, why we're seeing normal, ordinary people who just started out, for example, with back pain, now have an addiction that manages them and they don't manage it. And it had absolutely no impact whatsoever on their back pain because it didn't deal with the root cause of that pain. So this is what I would really like you to think about in terms of the overall summation of what determines our health. And I'd like to tell you a little story, something that really personally changed my life pretty significantly, and I heard it when I was in college studying to be a health teacher. And it goes something like this. There was a well-known small-town doctor fishing one day on the riverbank, just enjoying a beautiful day. He was out having a good day. All of a sudden, here comes this body floating down the river, fighting and thrashing. And so he, of course, being the good, conscious human being he is, chucks his fishing pole, dives in the river, hauls out this person who's flailing and gasping and spitting and screaming, gets the person to shore. While he's calming the person down, here comes another body, only this one's pretty still. So he dives in after that one and he hauls that one out and he resuscitates it. And before you know it, the bodies are coming so fast down the river that he himself collapses on the shore of that river and dies. So, what is the whole point to that story? It never occurred to him, and this is the synopsis really of a lot of our medical system right now, is it never occurs to anyone to go up the stream and see why these people are ending up in the river in the first doggone place. Are they getting thrown in? Did they fall in? Did something happen to make them end up in this river in the first place? So in other words, it's going back to source, going back to root cause, going to find out before it's too late, or before everybody's just in a hurry up, resuscitate, cut it out, nuke it to death, all of these horribly invasive things we do to people. And by the way, here's a thought for you. Why are we so okay with doing all these horribly invasive, toxic pharmaceuticals, really debilitating surgeries on human beings, and yet we don't allow our pets to suffer? We don't allow them to be in pain. We use surgical procedure very sparingly because we know that this particular animal needs to function at its best, and only in the case where it's absolutely necessary does a surgical procedure ever happen. And interestingly enough, we most people, feed their animals better than they do themselves, which really begs the question, what the heck are we doing, people? Where have we gone in terms of our own understanding about this beautiful, complicated, self-balancing organism known as the human body? And what has been our participation, in terms of making our society one that is full, and I mean full, of younger and younger and younger people being on toxic pharmaceuticals to manage literally lifestyle-related disease. And what do I mean by lifestyle-related disease? Well, there are some diabetics who come by it honestly. It's a fact that their body does not deal with their blood sugar effectively and needs help. Okay, that's one type of diabetes. The type of diabetes that we have seen gone through the roof is the lifestyle-related diabetes. The fact that we're eating more and more sugar, the average person consumes pounds of sugar in a day. And this one is a big stumper. It used to always stump my teenagers. How many tablespoons of sugar do you think are in one 12-ounce Now, we're not talking about the 16 or the quart or the 2 quart, the mega, big gulp, whatever. How many tablespoons of sugar are in a can of, let's just say, Coca-Cola for the conversation? Any idea? 16. 16 tablespoons of sugar in that one carbonated beverage. Now, that's just one thing that people are doing. At the same time, they could be eating an entire Big Mac, French fries, then they're going to top it off with an ice cream cone, then later in the afternoon they're going to have some cookies, and then they might have a microwave meal later on. By the time it's all said and done, that person has ingested pounds of sugar. And then we wonder, again, looking down the river, gee, why are all these people having diabetic issues? Why are all these people having obesity issues? Why are all these people having metabolic control issues? What we do to ourselves, we either help our body take care of itself, or we hurt it, actually. We not only not help it, we hurt it. So a lot of people think about health as you either have it or you don't. But I am also going to offer you a different explanation and a different thing to think about. Let's look at life on a continuum, if you will, okay? Where health is dead center. So you've got optimal health and well-being over here, and then you've got death as the end point over here. Health, which we're going to define in this moment as the absence of disease and just general well-being. So I'm not sick with any virus that I know of, I don't have a bacteria thing going on, and I'm pretty functionally well. That's the 0 point. Okay, what we're seeing more and more now, because of our lifestyle, is more people are living on the negative side of the continuum. So again, here's 0's health, here's death. Where do you fall? Are you on the right side of that, towards not only disease-free, but I feel great, my body works its optimal way, I'm pain-free, I move around in the world, I do what I want in terms of getting in and out of my car, climbing stairs, doing my exercise, playing with the kids, fishing, hunting, whatever it is I want my body to do. That would be on that side. So we have a whole epidemic of people spending, really sadly, the majority of their life, and then begs the question, what is quality of life? You might be spending a whole lot of years on this side of the scale. Not only is it not fun, it's expensive, it's painful, it's sufferable, and it also takes a toll on the other parts of your health, which comprise several compartments, if you will. There's physical health. Obviously, are your body systems functioning correctly? Are you pain-free? Do your joints work? Do your muscles work effectively? How's your weight? How's your fitness level? Are you free of disease? And are you free of medication? It always is interesting to me when you're working with somebody and you intend on doing something, some kind of a stretch or something that may invert their head, and you say, do you have high blood pressure? Oh yeah, but I'm on medication. As if that being on medication completely takes away the fact that their circulation doesn't work correctly. No, it doesn't. You have high blood pressure. Medication is just managing it, but you still have high blood pressure. So I'd like you to think about that. The other piece, another piece, is the emotional component of health. How content are you? What kind of level of self-satisfaction do you have in your life? Are you able to feel your emotions fully? Do you have a full range of them, or do you just know one, which is anger, or do you just know one, which is boredom, or do you fluctuate back and forth between I'm totally bored or I'm going to take your head off? Not a good example of emotional health, people. There's a full range. I always love that when you're a little kid and you go to school and they have all the little stickers with the little faces that show you all the different types of emotions there are. And most people are only in touch, sadly, with two: anger and sadness. So in evaluating your own health, how's your emotional health? Are you accessing all those little smiley stickers and all of the different emotional range that one can actually have as a human being? Or are you stuck on one or two? The other one is our mental health, and most people think about it as psychological health, but there's two layers to that. I want to talk about the mental health as the functioning, healthy brain. Can you think correctly? Do you have a decent memory? Does your brain feel all foggy all the time? Does it take you a little while to respond? If somebody tells you something, you forget. You know, that there's this chronic, oh my goodness, I don't know where my keys are. I don't know where my car is. Did I eat? Did I put something somewhere? You know, that's a really good indication that the brain is not functioning at capacity. And just like anything else, the brain needs food too. The brain needs nutrients in order to function correctly. And by the way, interestingly enough, you know, there is a biological and neurochemical function of the brain that then triggers things like anxiety and depression. And it doesn't mean the absence of the particular medication that controls that. It means that there might be an amino acid balance that's off. There might be a fluid balance that's off. You might be completely chronically dehydrated. And or there may be some structural, if you've had a head injury, for example. There are all sorts of other pieces to that. Again, and then the other part of the mental health is the psychological component. You know, how hopeful am I? How close am I to really experiencing and expressing and reaching my full potential? And that is not only being successful, that's full potential in terms of, are you being your best self? That is psychological health. Can you manage your life stressors effectively? Or do you let them consume you? Do you constantly worry about what other people think about you? And by the way, if you really realized how very little time people think about you, you'd be shocked. So stop worrying that everybody is watching your every move and thinking about what you're doing, because they're really not. That's the good news of the day. Then we have the social component. How's your relational life? Human beings, as animals, are very relational people. In order to be our healthiest, we need to have connection. We need to have affection. We need to know that we belong with people, our families, our friends, in a cultural group, for example, that allows us to feel supported and encouraged and validated for who we are. It's absolutely essential. And there's a really interesting white paper out currently, it's actually been out for a little while, talking about the new study that isolation and loneliness is as harmful to one's health, one's physical health, as chronic smoking is. So wrap your head around that one. Our modern world encourages distance, and I've certainly experienced it myself. You go away to strange cities, you move every couple of years, you start over again. It becomes harder and harder to have that social connection. And thank goodness for the cell phone and the internet, because then most people can still stay connected to the people who have been historically close to them. But we're still missing that day-to-day component. So isolation and loneliness is very detrimental to a person's health, not only emotional health, but physical health. The other piece of that is the environmental health that we talked about on the graph. And when we think of environmental health, it's just what it is. My immediate environment, so is my home, is the air in my home clean and filtered? Or is it full of dust? Is it full of smoke? Have I ever opened the windows of my house? Is it full of dog and cat dander? Is it filthy? The same thing with the air we breathe outside. And we're fortunate here in New Hampshire, we have all these trees which filter our air, really, really high quality air. But go to a city and find out how long it takes before your eyes burn and your throat burns. And you might start to feel like, man, am I catching a cold? No, that would be environmental pollutions. Interestingly enough, we used to all be able to turn on a tap and drink the water. Not so much anymore. Our waters are polluted. Our waters are full of pesticides and chemicals. As a matter of fact, we're having runoffs into the ocean from all of this pesticide and chemicals that's killing off our marine life. So it's all, again, it's all interrelated, and those things also impact our health. The other thing that a lot of people don't think about, and that's a whole other show, is food. Are you eating whole food? We are designed to eat whole food as close to the source as possible. And I'm going to do a whole show on nutrition because most people don't know how to feed themselves properly. So we're going to talk about that. And no, it's not a Happy Meal, and it doesn't come in a container, just for giggles, okay? And then there's also the environmental pollution of noise and light pollution. And the light pollution is really interesting. The more modern our society has come to be, the more we have light pollution 24 hours a day. People sleep with lights on in their room. People sleep with lights on in their house. They never give their brains, their eyes, and their bodies, which work very much on a biological clock, which has a lot to do with the amount of light, which is why your energy level and your sleep levels may vary in between the summertime when we have lots of light here in North America and the wintertime when we have a very short period of light in North America. So something to be aware of. And then the last factor in our health is work or career. And if you think about it, we spend so much of our doggone time working. And is it something, are we working our lives away? We're not designed to just work. We're designed to have those relationships. We're designed to share meals together. We're not designed to sit in front of our computer and shovel something fast into our face and don't even pay attention to what we ate while we're busy working. So all of these things are really impacting our general health and the health of our nation. So that's a broad brush stroke, but just something to think about. And again, I'll circle back as we started this program with, how are you taking care of your own health? What are you doing on a daily basis that brings you closer to more optimal health? So remember that continuum that we talked about, starting without sickness. How are your actions and your thoughts and how you treat yourself, how is it moving you toward the right of that scale, toward better health? Or is what you're doing, thinking, and being moving you to the left side, toward the death side? And that is how I will leave you today. It's important to do that inventory. If anything that you have seen or heard today has inspired you, I would invite you to go ahead and reach out. My contact information, I have an office here in Keene at 51 Ralston Street, and that's above New England Fabrics, suite number 1. And the phone number is 603-283-6335. You can shoot me an email at mmeir, M-I-E-R, coach @gmail.com. Or if you don't remember anything, you can just go to my website, which is www.marlenemeir.net. And that will also have all of that information at your disposal. So you can reach me and I can support you in any way that you would like to around your health challenges, around your health goals, and around moving yourself farther on that right side of the continuum. And as I always say, may every sunrise bring you more promise, and may every sunset bring you more peace. Until next time.